Alright, making a video. I actually made 2 videos today, and I said the hell with them. Didn't like either one of them. Yeah. Just for little reasons. You know, one of them was too personal, you know, and the walk and talk. And I did a response video to the JustSayNoToKids video. And yeah, I just didn't, there's, you know, I don't want to get into an argument about the credibility of arguments, I suppose, outside of some agreement that these are going to be rules or something. But there is no agreement. There is no, this is sort of war. And unfortunately, you know, there's not too many rules in war. So people cheat. He's claiming it's a cheat to question the selfish indulgence of people who take a benefit and enjoy it, like say a slave owner, and you would question the self-interest, and then the person owning slaves could say to the person not owning slaves, well, you just don't want to own slaves because you don't have the money to buy them or something, even though they have the money to buy them. You know, so one accusation would have integrity and one would have no integrity, but who wants to measure the integrity of the accusations about the mechanism that leads somebody to their conclusions? But there is a point in the argument, I suppose, right, when the argument is so entrenched where you don't have any more facts to argue. All you have is, well, what's your incentive here? You're saying you acknowledge the existence of evolution, you acknowledge the absence of intelligent design, you acknowledge certain facts about the game we're playing, and yet you'll still claim to defend the game. And you're saying, well, there's got to be a reason. Why would somebody do that? Something that lacks fairness and consent to fundamental ingredients of any kind of equitable, decent interaction. And yet you'll claim still. And so somebody has to question, well, what is the still? What is the thing? What is it that's making you think that something you just analyzed logically to say it's crap, but you somehow know it's not crap? Well, I have to have evidence of that somehow I know. It's like we have arguments with religious people sometimes, and you argue with them enough and you'll find out eventually, yeah, they saw a UFO or something. And you say, oh, okay, well, yeah, I can't argue with your vision of Jesus. Or the coincidence, you know, that you heard a voice in your head and you didn't get on an airplane and the airplane crashed, and therefore there's special magical forces. Well, I can't, you know, yeah, all right, I don't got an argument for your personal experience. The argument from personal interaction with God, I got no argument for. I can explain to you what a coincidence is, but probably isn't going to do any good. So anyway, I think that, you know, if you're going to get into an argument about arguing, it would be at least fair, I think, to point out, you know, be specific in terms of accusations. I mean, it's just a lot of these vague accusations about what kind of accusations are being done. So it's like somebody in the war saying, "Oh, the Germans are cheating," you know, they're pretending to be women, you know, and mermaids. They're pretending to be mermaids. You're not allowed to be a you know, you're not allowed to dress up like a mermaid in war. And maybe only 2 people are doing that, you know, but they're just making a whole accusation about all of the German soldiers, and that's not fair. So, you know, you got to be a little more specific if you're going to make accusations that somebody's done you a wrong, I think. But anyway, let's play this, see if we can make anything out of it.
Reading a lot of the literature written by self-described DRs, depressive realists, one gets the distinct impression that they overcome a lot of the objections of people who don't necessarily subscribe to depressive realism by saying,
okay, so that's his premise, that they're getting over an objection. They're not making an affirmative argument in the case of their claims. This is some sort of counterclaim he's claiming. So this is what he's claiming they're making as a counterclaim.
Look, it's all very well for you not to be depressed about reality, because from this reality you've done quite well, haven't you? You just choose not to see how everybody else is suffering as a result of it.
Okay, so you make an accusation to those who are privileged making the argument. So those who have benefited, say, had a lucky life, and they're advocates for God, let's say, and you just make the accusation that, well, you're only saying God is good is because you lived God has somehow blessed you or something. But we know there's plenty of people who've had really lousy lives who are believers. So yes, you could make the simple argument, that counterclaim, that accusation probably doesn't have too much to do with the subject. The subject is their ignorance, right? Because if you knew what you were doing, if you could see it, you'd see that you're cutting your own nuts off in the end. Okay, you do harm to others. It's the same thing as doing harm to yourself. It's just so fucking destructive.
Which is essentially nothing more than a personal attack. And it unfortunately is...
Well, I just don't know if that's as simple as it is. Because you are in a war where you're arguing about what is motivating people. And I mean, obviously, even in politics you could argue that there's a lot of people who have advantage through all kinds of bullshit. And they're pointing their finger at the poor and saying, well, pull up your bootstraps, right? And they inherited the money. I mean, it's that kind of ludicrous nonsense is going on. So these accusations to character probably aren't all irrelevant. Some people are for something because they're taking advantage of it personally and they just don't give a fuck about anything else. But I guess that's the more important part of the accusation, is the part where you're claiming they don't give a fuck about anything else.
It's essentially the same thing as the person who doesn't have a depressed view of reality pointing to the quote-unquote depressive realist and saying, you're just jealous.
Well, I don't think it's the same thing, because, and secondly, I don't think that it's even any way to, it's certainly not a claim that can be argued in terms of, well, here's my evidence that I'm not jealous. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously I can't argue about what's in my mind. And the evidence is non-existent in the sense that you're just saying anybody on that side therefore is. Where the first accusation, you could only really make it to somebody who was in privilege. So, I mean, it wouldn't work as an argument for people defending monarchy who weren't noblemen. You know what I mean? You could see the nobleman defending monarchy, but when the peasant next to you does it, well, you can't use that same accusation. Where, the accusation that, anybody who chooses not to own slaves or something, yeah, you can always just make the accusation, well, yeah, it's because you're not man enough. Yeah, it takes you got to be a man to own a slave. Or you can make any kind of bogus accusation. But again, I don't know what your point is. What's your point? Your point is in the battle of idea. It's a real battle of ideas. Is war, and it's over really important stuff. Just like some wars are over really important shit. They're wars that kind of have to be fought. And unfortunately, war's messy. And I'd like there to be some kind of, arm wrestling way you decide it all, some kind of straightforward contest. But it's just not the way. It's not the way the world works.
Either way, it's just a personal attack, and it's just a way of accusing the other person.
No, it's a personal attack. It's a personal insult in one case, I think. In the second case. In the first case, like I said, it's almost part of the structure of the argument. That you have to have incentive to do something wrong. Right? You kind of do have to have some sort of incentive. You don't do something overtly wrong for no reason. Where somebody stopping somebody from doing something overtly wrong has a reason. The wrong is what they're trying to prevent. So, it is different. I mean, if you're claiming that you're owning slaves or exploiting Chinamen or imposing life because you're rescuing something, well, that would be an argument somebody could listen to and say, okay, I can respect that. But that's not the argument. The argument is that you're basically just a selfish fuck, and it's the truth. Yeah.
Of lacking empathy. And
Well, who cares? This whole empathy thing. I mean, you want to just keep dealing with... That's the joke here, right? You keep bringing up these emotionally charged words, and then you're going to complain about emotional language in the war. I mean, shit. Shithead, pooper scooper thyself. I mean, really, you're going to sit there and wallow in these words, guilt, and all this other... you're the one playing with all these emotionally charged words, and then you're going to say, that's not the kind of debate I want. I don't want an emotional debate. That's really asking for way too much.
ultimately, it adds nothing to the debate one way or another.
Well, whatever. I don't know. There's lots of ways you win wars. Sometimes you win them honestly and honorably, and sometimes, yeah, you cheat. Sometimes you take you cut all kinds of corners, and you win. And the game is to win. And yeah, what can I say? I would prefer not to have all this crap that I get. So again, you want to have an insult competition and see who's been more maliciously insulted. Which side has thrown more malicious insults? I don't think you're going to win. I really don't. Anyway, he does complain an awful lot about certain people out there call people every name imaginable. Well, again, what by every name imaginable, you mean like unproductive citizen, menace to society? I mean, what kind of name are you saying is the name that is not an appropriate name? I mean, what do you call gluttonous pig? Is there some other way to describe gluttonous pig except gluttonous pig? I don't think so. Anyway, and engage in every personal attack you can come up with. I'm sure there's lots of other personal attacks people can come up with. I had somebody who played one of my videos with somebody else singing some kind of hokey pokey song in the background. Couldn't even hear my video, which, it probably wouldn't have been alright if it was just background music and you could still hear what I was saying. Is that a straight up attack? No, I don't think so. It is entirely possible that these insults are sincere expressions of opinion. There you go. But still doesn't make them any more relevant to the points being raised. Well, I think it does make them relevant because some of them are sincere expressions of doubt regarding veracity and honesty of the conversation. So maybe you should work on some of that. Maybe. I don't like this plus thing they do. Whatever this is. Plus. I don't get it. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like being plussed. Yeah. I don't make them anymore. Comments are almost impossible now. The Amendum channel, I broke it off of Google Plus, so now I can't comment on that channel, which is kind of funny. They won't even let you comment on your own YouTube video. But whatever, who cares? It's the world we live in. So anyway, war is war. So I don't like the way your side is fighting. You can critique the way our side is fighting. Okay, fine. Yeah. So yeah. Next. I don't think you got a solution to that problem. I don't think you do. I don't think you're going to tone down the rhetoric of your clan, your side of the cult war. You Borgites. Yeah, that's one of my insults. Borgite. Okay, well, whatever. I don't really think this has anything to do with the subject. really don't.